Greetings, hey guys, welcome to my channel. If you're new here, greetings, hi. If not, thank you so much for being here. Before you say anything, I know this isn't my usual setup. I know the sound isn't good, but I am away on holiday and I really felt called, pushed, compelled to shoot this video for you guys before the end of 2024. And today's video is a little bit on how to turn a setback into a comeback. This video is inspired by that quote that we probably have all seen on the internet, that every setback is usually a setup for a comeback. However, I feel that that quote doesn't necessarily include or help us become the catalyst for change in our lives, and that's what we're on about today. I have my notes on the side here, so if you see me looking down or like refer down, that's why. I'm sorry for the poor quality and the poor sound situation, and I hope you enjoy this video, and I hope you're all well. Okay. I once had someone explain to me that when you are experiencing a setback, this is also quite like a common platitude that helps people through dark times. It's like you're being put into a slingshot, and the way that a slingshot works is that it's pulled really far back, and the further you would like to shoot or achieve the most success, the further you want to shoot, the harder and further you would have to pull the object that you want to shoot in the slingshot. But the most important part of that little metaphor or analogy for me is the fact that even though you are the object that's being pulled back, the setback, you are also the object that is doing the pulling. And it's up to you to generate enough force during your setback. So it is up to you to be the co-creator with the universe. So I like to see the object in the slingshot as you, and the person who's pulling it back, the person, as God or the universe or a higher power, and that both of you are co-creating with one another constantly based on your decision making, your perspective of your setback, etc. You two are in a constant relationship, and that becomes the catalyst of how that setback will become a comeback. So it's not just you alone in this dark place. However, because you are in a co-creation system with the universe, you need to be the agent of change when you are experiencing a setback. Now, in order to be an object of change when you are experiencing a setback, number one, the first thing I like to do, and I do this at the end of every single year, is I write down the lessons that the setback taught me. So, in order to turn your setback into a comeback, step one is to write down the lessons that your setback has taught you or is currently teaching you. Now, why do you want to do that? When you write down, if you keep a notebook over the years, when you write down what you have learned, if you go back and reflect, you will see patterns. When you see patterns, you can break a loop. Becoming an agent of change is breaking the patterns and the cycles that are constantly keeping you repeating the same mistakes and the old stories that play in your head. So, this is about breaking mental cycles. And for me, I find that this is the most frustrating part because you are doing the most mental work. You're expending a lot of mental energy in order to get to this space where you are understanding yourself, but there is no tangible evidence in your reality and in your current environment for the work you are doing. And this is when you have to keep the faith that the current work you are doing that is internal will manifest itself externally once you continue to notice the patterns and break the loop where you see a discrepancy. Does that make sense? Step two is to recognize grief as part of the process of setting yourself up for a comeback after a setback. What I mean by this is when something difficult happens to you, when you experience challenges, you become a new version of yourself. You shed an old layer and become a new version of yourself. This is a grieving process. You will go through the 5 stages of grief. And what's important to recognize is when you're going through these, that there will come in an end to the cycle of grief. But it's important to really be in that grief. If you try to rush the process of grieving an old version of yourself while you become a new one, you are really hindering yourself. Grieving is actually much like joy in the sense that you have to be in it to experience it. And grieving is just as productive as joy because you have to be in it in order to fully release it. When you are in a joyful state, not in a rush for that joyful state to be done because you recognize that joy is valuable. The joy teaches you that you belong, that you have love, that, when you have that warm, glowing part in your heart. But grief reminds you that joy lived inside. And when you are grieving, you need to be in it. When you are going through those stages, if you don't let yourself go through your 5 stages of grief, when you're shedding a layer as a result of a comeback, you are denying yourself the fullness and deepness of the human experience. And you are bound to then go back to those patterns and repeat them. And that is bound to be something that will hurt you in the end. Step 3 is that you will have to go through a perspective shift. Now, boring, I know, because I'm speaking about this on a philosophical level. But if you can come to terms with the fact that the material, what you see, is inherently philosophical. It's to do with the unseen. The unseen manifests itself in what we see, and that the past, future, and present overlap in somehow. You will understand that one of the most important things you can do when you're going through a difficult time, a challenge, is to shift your perspective. It doesn't necessarily make the situation easier, but perspective shifts really alleviate the feeling of being trapped. This is what I realized. I used to get so annoyed when somebody goes, change your perspective. Like, don't tell me what to do. I'm the one going through a hard time. Why would you tell me to just look at it from a different angle? You don't know what it's like to be in my skin while I'm going through this particular upheaval in my life. This is not happening to you. In fact, I'm so hurt that the fact that you would even suggest I need a different perspective is almost offensive. Whoa, that's how I feel. Look, I'm just being honest. The truth is, a perspective shift feels like a philosophical thing, which it is, but in the practical, once you shift your perspective, you find solutions. Once you shift your perspective, you can stop operating from ego. The ego seeks to blame. The ego seeks to see who is at fault for this situation and how can I put that onto them, therefore, sort of giving me impunity in my circumstances, almost making me not just the victim, but making me blameless, therefore saying that I don't have to do anything to get out of this situation. The ego seeks to deceive. So I think a perspective shift is about stepping outside of your ego and finding solutions that are helpful, but more so, a perspective shift is about finding solutions that work for you, allowing you to design your life based on the lessons you've learned, thus making you wiser. A wiser person is immediately set up for a comeback. A person who is wise knows how to take calculated risks. A person who is wise is discerning because now they know they need to change their circle of friends. Does this make sense? A person who is wise, so perspective, ego shift, wisdom, discernment. You see how I'm leading you in this conversation as to how that setback, that co creation with the universe becomes a comeback. 4, could be number 3, we'll never know, is to find comfort in ambiguity. Earlier in the video, I spoke about how this situation will require you to be okay with being uncomfortable, learning to have like these uncomfortable feelings sit in your body and accepting them as fact. The truth is, life is inherently contradictory. Life inherently doesn't make sense, and there is no sense to be made of life. That means you need to find comfort in ambiguity, multiple things being true at once, multiple things being sort of true, and other parts of it being not true, and somehow being. It will always be the case that life is contradictory and ambiguous. And if that is something that still surprises you after everything you've been through, after all the challenges you've experienced in your life, anywhere between the ages, I would say, of like 21 and upwards. If you have not come to terms with the fact that life is inherently, it's built-in system, contradiction, ambiguity, multiple things being sort of true and not true, and sometimes true and could be true based on the context of the situation, you are then setting yourself up for consistent failure. If you are looking for life to make sense to you, boy, I have news for you. Okay? The point here is that comfort in ambiguity means when you are working with the universe for this comeback, figuring out the right actions for this comeback, you will realize there isn't quite a right or wrong way to figure your way out of a situation. There isn't quite a one size fits all to figure out this situation. This teaches you that nuance. I know I talk about it all the time, but it's really important. You need to look for the nuances in between things, but that also it's okay for things to not make sense. It's okay for the solutions you find to your issues to be unconventional. In fact, I insist that the solutions you find be unconventional. I insist that you pave your own path. I insist that things be of a contradictory nature, because that will make you even wiser. And wise people know how to make good decisions, and good decisions set us up for comebacks. Good decisions let us recognize opportunity when it knocks. Good decisions help us to be vigilant, observant, to soak in things that are important to us and new skills that other people are giving us, but to also release what no longer fits in with the new person that is being born as a result of this challenge. The last point here is, in order to transcend yourself, you need to befriend yourself. This means that you cannot bully yourself into enlightenment. I'm going to repeat that. In order to transcend yourself, you must befriend yourself. This means that you cannot bully yourself into enlightenment or success or joy. You cannot bully yourself into a comeback. You cannot bully yourself into being a better person. You cannot bully yourself into the place where you want to be, the place that fits with your journey at this moment. I know people often get upset with me when I say your life is a mirror, and I mean it really within quite a few set of parameters. I don't mean that if an earthquake happens where you are and your house falls down and you've lost everything, that is a reflection of what is happening in your mind. That's not what I mean. I don't mean if somebody comes to your house and robs the whole thing and hurts you and your family. I don't mean that that is a mirror. I mean that when you are sitting in an environment, in a room of these people that you so deeply love, who are now no longer aligned with where you are and where you're going with life, and you think to yourself, how did I find myself here? I don't recognize these people. I don't recognize myself. It's not that I don't like them. It's just that something is just not fitting. How did I get into a space like this? That is a mirror. You have made lots and lots of small, tiny, lots and lots of decisions that have led you to where you are. So if you do not like what you see in terms of where you are and the people that surround you, you have worked your way to that position. And the fact that you no longer like it anymore means that you have transcended. It means that you are co creating with the universe, with that slingshot analogy thing, to fly. Because now you don't belong in this environment, in this nest any longer. And I think it's a beautiful thing. You know something good is about to happen in your life when you do not recognize or necessarily align or resonate with what you see anymore. It's because you're looking through different eyes. Your rose colored glasses have come off, and that means more work is ahead of you. More work is ahead of you to transcend the level. And I don't mean like up or down, because life is not really up or down, it's inside out, it's upside down. But to go through a portal where you become a wiser person means you kind of need to grow up a little. You need to get tired of your own crap. You need to say, you know what, I've worked my way to here and I don't like it anymore. And I take full responsibility of how I co created with the universe to get me here. And I'm so thankful for what I have learned. I'm so thankful for what I've been taught here. And it's hard and it's challenging and I don't like any of it. But I can see the role I played in it. And now, because I can see it, I get to choose differently. And what a blessing that is. So in 2024, I hope you choose differently. I hope you feel wiser. I hope you don't let the difficulty of that pullback from the universe or that slingshot stop you from flying. Okay, like and subscribe. Bye.